July 15th, 2019 Aleppo Township Legislative Meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Vice President Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Darrow.
Present.
Commissioner DeFalco.
Present.
Solicitor Stone.
Here.
Manager Patterson.
Here.
And as you hear at every meeting, this meeting is being recorded. People can watch it in perpetuity from wherever, whenever, however they want. And just be aware of what you say will be recorded. Is there a motion to approve the workshop meetings of July 8th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Reports, police.
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Good, Chief.
All right. So, speaking of June, relatively quiet month. I'm assuming the microphone is on. The total call volume was 87 calls, but that included 32 EMS, medical assistant calls, along with 19 traffic citations issued for that month. As always, you can see what normal calls and where they're at on the township blog site, on the police blotter. Anyone have anything for me tonight? Any questions, concerns?
Yes, at our workshop we discussed getting more information on how Ohio Township Police Department are trained with residents with mental health issues. If there's an issue, say aggression or something that happens in public, what kind of training do our officers have for those type of situations?
Okay. Was it a specific incident that we're referencing, or
No.
are you just curious just in general
I'm just-
of how we're trained?
I just would like to know more about how the officers are trained. I know you're trained in a lot of different things. I just want to know more specifically about that particular issue. Like, how would you deal with someone that you might suspect has schizophrenia, or maybe you don't know, or might have a nonverbal person, someone with autism, some other type of mental illness.
Okay. So our officers, all officers during the police academy receive, a basic line of mental, even more so in recent years. They've increased it. I think last I looked, it was between 20 and 30 hours during the police academy, solely dedicated on mental health and well-being, de-escalation and recognizing that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's just in the academy. In recent years, we have had, in our updated trainings, which is yearly, quite often, they do a lot of mental health things, specifically autism and all the other factors of when you deal with mental health. So, our officers do a lot of different things, and they have a lot of hands-on training. They're provided with a lot of access to resources, different groups and organizations within Allegheny County that we can call upon that are trained even more so. Our officers do, they're trained to de-escalate, no matter the situation, no matter the mental health situation or any type. So that kind of applies to just about anybody or anything that you would come into contact with. The whole sole key is to bring everything down to a manageable level. And we try to do that the best that we can. If we can't do that, that's when we start reaching out to different agencies within the county. Oddly enough, that you bring this question up, I am sending, and they're slotted to go, they pushed the class back, but there's a week-long class. It's called Crisis Intervention Team. It's just called CIT training. It's a week-long training that deals specifically with mental health. All the aspects. So it's each day they're covering different types: elderly, youth, and everything in between. It's kind of like we use the terminology, train the trainer. So these two officers, I'm sending two officers to the week-long class. They will come back, and they'll be field training officers, and they'll pass along what they've learned, bring back the information, the knowledge, handouts, resources, and they give it out to the officers in addition to that. So, you know, we take each situation as they come. Nothing is the same out there.
Yeah.
But the ultimate goal is always to de-escalate, and the officers do receive ongoing training with that.
I did see that CIT website, and it didn't have Ohio Township listed on there when I had looked. This is like several months ago. So it's good that you're doing that.
Yes, I hope to have 2 officers. I had an October class, and I just received an email last week that they're pushing it back till December now.
So
But I do have 2 officers slotted to go.
So how do they teach if someone is not responding, but maybe they just can't because they're nonverbal? How do you determine that without any other information?
Well, you need a whole scenario. The officer
Yeah.
takes in everything, as we are all trained, and which you see a little news clip that's here and there, whatever. But we, from the whole thing, what was the call? How did we get the call? What's the 911 call? Why are we there in the first place? What relatives are around? What friends are around? If no one is around, what else? What's going on in the situation? That we were called there for that.
Okay.
So the officers take all of that in with the circumstances. I can't specifically tell you this is what we look for. It's just more of why are we there? What's going on? What do we see? And then we try to act accordingly. You know, the ultimate goal, no matter who you're dealing with or what you're dealing with, again, is de-escalation, but it's more of, you know, we're just trying to fix what's going on right here, right now, right? I can't fix long-term problems. Just, we put, as we say, we put Band-Aids on a bigger problem, right? But we try to work through and make sure everybody's safe, and there's no harm coming to anyone, and that we de-escalated enough that the situation is resolved enough for the time being. So, you know, I mean, we could go scenario by scenario, but it would be kind of tough for me to answer that unless you have the totality of the circumstances of why we're there in the first place.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the ultimate goal? You know, what's going on? Who are they affecting? Who are they not affecting?
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you're doing the CIT training. Good to hear
I'm
that.
looking forward to it.
Are you still doing Project Lifesaver through Allegheny County?
We are. Myself and my detective have a refresher training next Friday. As you may, we have
This-
recertification.
Project Lifesaver is a program through Allegheny County for children, mainly children, and adults that wander,
All.
and where the county provides a tracking device if someone wanders off. And I actually met Chief Fanny when he was still a detective, because he came to my home because I have a son who was wandering, who has autism, and my son no longer needs that service, but that was a great thing you guys did. So
It is a good thing. It's a real good thing. Yes, so it's a refresher course, and it affects, it's for dementia patients, for anyone living at home that, like as she stated, may have a tendency to wander off. It's a radio radio transceiver. It kind of sends out a broadcast. We have devices that we can track the person down. Any age, just go through the Allegheny County District Attorney's Office, and we help go. We get calls every so often. We'll go out and assist other agencies from all over Allegheny County if somebody needs finding. But yes, we are active members in that, and plan on continuing that.
thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else?
Thanks, Chief.
May I ask the chief a question?
Certainly.
Yes, please.
I was just reading the blotter today. I saw on Weber Road that there was some vehicles broken into.
So, yeah, I should have mentioned that. It was for the July. It's not in the June, but it is July. There have been, not only in Aleppo Township, but all over jurisdictions and neighboring jurisdictions, unlocked vehicles. And thank you very much for bringing that up. I
That's
appreciate it.
what my question was, whether they were unlocked.
They were unlocked vehicles. Unlocked vehicles. And from my understanding, all of the items were returned to the owners, except for some cash that they had left in the vehicle. Everything else, the officers trekked through the woods, located some things that were dumped. That investigation is ongoing, but we in Ohio Township, along with, like I said, other neighboring jurisdictions, have all had this going on. Typically, we see this, they come out of groups or organizations come out of the city. And they know which neighborhoods to hit. You know, places that people feel safe, secure, they leave some cash in there, and that's all they're looking for is some cash. So, but thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Lock your cars, take your valuables out. It happens everywhere.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Fire Department,
No report.
Emergency Management.
No official report. I just wanted to remind the board that you had asked Judy for a refresher training session, and she's available before the workshop meeting on August 12th. So I think the best thing to do would be assemble at 5:30. If they can make that at 5:30 on August 12th, and she'll give the commissioners an hour-long refresher on the emergency management procedures before the workshop meeting.
Does that work for everybody?
As far as I know.
Yep.
All right, Public Works.
As you can see, we've cut back branches on a lot of township roads that have come out, and we've patched some potholes on Swiftly Ridge Circle, which in the next month or so, we hope to go in there with hot asphalt and do some permanent repairs on that. Then we had a lot of cleanup along the roads after these storms we've had. And one storm, we had a tree come up Swiftly Heights Drive up in the cul-de-sac, come partially out into the road, so we had to cut it up and get it all cleaned out of there. And grass, we just can't keep up with it. It's ongoing, unfortunately. Then we did run a boom mower to cut along the sides of the roads, our roads, plus we were going Glen Mitchell because it's just become so overgrown. Don't see Allegheny County coming out anytime soon. They said they would, but they're so busy themselves and personnel they're short on. So we took it upon ourselves to go ahead and do it while we had it. Any questions?
I think Gwen explained that to me today, that even though it's a county road, we care for it when needed,
Yeah.
which I think is a good policy.
Well, it was coming to the point that the water weeds were getting so high, they were on the bends, they were
Right.
really starting to come out and approach, so it wasn't becoming a safe situation.
Good job, pretty fancy machine.
Yeah, I wish we could afford it.
Any questions for Public Works? All right,
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Engineering.
Okay, I have a stack of papers, which we'll go through one by one. The first one, I believe.
Would you introduce yourself,
Oh,
Ben?
sorry, Ben Gilberti with HRG Township Engineer. Township asked me to take a look at a couple items, more as a maintenance standpoint. We'll cover them. The first one, I believe, on the agenda is Rhodes Avenue pavement repair. Should be some extras in there.
Oh,
So Rhodes Avenue, Public Works has brought to our attention kind of an area of possible movement. At the very least, the pavement is shifting, and the concern was ride quality as well as maintenance concerns with potential damage to the equipment. So in all of the work we're doing on Rhodes Avenue, which I'll get to in a minute, the one item that was discussed was getting some pricing, hopefully in a quote area, to do this repair. We've solicited 3 quotes from contractors that have either worked with HRG or worked in the community before. El Grande Industries, Shields Asphalt Paving, and Youngblood. Of the 3, we received 2 quotes back. Our original estimate we thought was hovering right around the quote limit of $18,000. That is not what we saw when we got the quotes. The 2 bids we got, I believe, were $52,000 and $56,000. I think the difference being size of the project. It's a small project for them to mobilize, as well as the weather and their workload. I think these contractors are really struggling to do last year's work, and again, behind on this year's work with the rain we've had. So looking at that price, I'm open to comments and suggestions from the board before I provide my recommendation, but obviously it is double our estimate, so I think you know where I'm going to go.
Tom, you have any comment?
I feel at this point, I mean, with the specs that he was suggesting, I think it could be done in-house. If it comes down to it.
with HRG's engineering support? Ben, is that a viable option to you?
Obviously, if the township's comfortable doing it, you know, I would trust you guys' skills. I think the question is, do you have the equipment, or do you need to rent equipment, and what does that cost? Now, I know we do have the quantities there, that if the township would like to work up their own number of doing it in-house, I think the information's there. I just don't know what that cost would be comparative to our estimate either.
Well, looking at the prices right now, in reality, I don't see the township doing it right now at this point. In my opinion, something has to be done before winter. It has to be done. It's not getting any better.
So to jump the agenda, put item number 1 on hold, and we'll jump to number 2. The other work on Rhodes Avenue that we've been doing. Over last winter or fall, Public Works brought to our attention that they had concerns about potential movement of the roadway.
Do you have the geotechnical proposal?
I do not have that prepared tonight, but I'm prepared to talk about
Okay.
generalities. Township brought to our attention potential movement. HRG went out and put survey pins throughout the roadways. If anyone's driven Rhodes Avenue has probably seen. And we've monitored those pins monthly, quarterly, depending on weather, time, and intel from the township. What we found was through January, the road was very stable, minimal to no movement. End of April, there was an area that saw visible movement, and on our survey data ranged from 1 inch to 3 inch vertical movement. So it wasn't an east to west or an XY, it was more the Z. It was dropping down. HRG's contacted geotechnical firm that we've worked with before to get their opinion on the work. Their opinion is to install inclinometers, 2 to 3 of them, which the Rhodes Avenue site is a historic landslide. The reason that is flat to build houses is that was a historic landslide. That slid at some time unknown. The question is that area still moving, currently moving? How is it moving? Is it a shallow movement, a deep movement? And the geotechnical's recommendation is to install these inclinometers that are drilled into the ground and measure that movement. So under this proposal, they would drill into the ground in a couple spots to get an idea of the amount of movement, the speed of the movement, and their estimation of best guess as to the stability of that site. So it's kind of oversimplified. If you were to soil nail stabilization where they grout the nails in to hold it, if it's moving deep, there you might be drilling into bad material. So that wouldn't be the best fix. The idea behind this is getting data to see what we're dealing with as to what kind of repair. Is it another wall? Is it a nail? Is it something else? So that was the proposal that's been preliminarily discussed. Price range, probably $35,000 to $45,000 range. So that's what I think is prompting item number 1 for the area that we're seeing sinking. Something's going on there. There's another question is, could it possibly be that area was repaired in the past? Was it a compaction issue? Was it a movement issue where it's just the top layer potentially, but without these inclinometers, it's really hard to say. The geotech did recommend that we don't put additional weight on it. So if an area is moving, you don't put more weight on it. So just putting more pavement on it to make it flat, more weight on the road. Our repair was digging out about 1 foot, reconstructing about 1 foot. So if it was a settlement issue, we would get that bad part out, try to compact everything and make it nice and flat. Is no guarantee that when we come back next spring or this fall that it still doesn't move with the rain that we have. But the idea was ride quality and we're not banging the plow on it all winter long.
How much of the linear distance of the road are we talking about having a problem?
The visible part appears to be isolated to an area right around the wall, approximately 100 feet.
I mean, the wall that's on the downhill?
Yes,
So,
yes. That's where we saw the movement, just around that area. That was an area that was repaired in the past, just after the wall was installed, year or two. There's another very small instance of movement out towards the front, but in the scheme of things, it's 1 point out of probably 10 in that area that moved. The rest, we're right in that area. Those points still do exist. We still are available to check the status of it. I think we've only lost a handful all winter with the plowing, which was surprising, but we could survey it again to see if it has moved since April 22nd, I think was the last time we shot it.
If you do a repair without addressing the stabilization issue, are you actually making the thing potentially worse?
So talk with the geotechnical engineer, he said no, as long as we're not putting additional weight on it. So that's why we wanted to remove and replace. Would be sealing it from water, which would be local, but again, we don't know if the movement is indeed movement of a landslide, or is it deep or shallow, or where the actual movement is occurring. We're seeing a lot of groundwater there, obviously. It appears like something is moving, but again, it's just what we're seeing on the surface.
Will you learn the answer to those questions when you dig out the material that you think needs to be replaced?
Probably not definitively,
Still need the geotechnical stuff?
yes.
I think we need a motion to approve the proposal, or look further into that proposal for the geotech first. It only makes sense if we're going to do anything.
Commissioner Williams, any comments?
No, I think that until we have that as to what's going on down below, it would be in the Z axis. We could just hope for the best, but I think that's something that has to be done because we have so many landslides in that area between there and Redgate that I would suspect most of that area is not that stable.
So I think we have two issues: fix the road, study the movement, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It appears that we should investigate fixing the road in-house before making that decision. True or false?
Well, I mean, it's up to the board which route they want to go with it. And with, Ben's recommendation too, but I mean, it was done in-house before years ago.
Is there a temporary solution for just the road repair that we could do and then get the geotech done? Something that would just keep the road, safe and drivable till we get to the point to actually do a total repave.
And again, the facts of the matter. We solicited 3 quotes. The quote limit is around 18,000. We're at 52 to 55.
It's a little higher now. I think it's up a little bit from 18, but as you approach 20, you get into full competitive bidding with advertising and everything else. So keep that in mind when you look at 56. The 52 and the 56,000 clearly indicate that you should be going out to a full bid at this point.
So even if you wanted to award them, I don't think you're in a position to award them legally. The only caveat there would be if we deem it as an emergency, and I don't think it's an emergency. I don't, it's still drivable. The worst movement we saw was 3 inches. That's a pothole. Ride quality, it's still very passable. So I think, the repair is one way to fix it. Putting more pavement on it is not an option. Is there a way we could look at pavement grinding or something to make it smoother at a low cost? I think that is an option with maybe some sealant, so to make sure that we can fill any cracks. That's probably the cheapest way to go about it. That is probably something in-house with rental equipment and some sealant that could be had locally. Or the other option is see what it would cost to do the repair in-house with equipment provided. The repair is a little bit larger, so you may need a roller or something a little bit bigger than what is probably in-house, but I think all available via rental.
Is this the exact area that was repaired 4 years ago?
Well, over 4 years.
Yeah, it looks like to me too.
Yeah.
So it's unstable.
And I can't guarantee you don't invest, pick a dollar amount in it, and then come next spring through the winter that it moves again. There's no guarantee on that. We don't know what we're dealing with there. You know, you have a 3-inch gap. It is going to suffer ride quality. The amount of vehicles there should be low, and the number of vehicles there should be low, so they might be able to deal with that one way. You're not a through street. But also, if there is a 3-inch lip there, you're going to be banging a plow off of it all winter long, which I'm sure Tom's not going to appreciate, and it's going to cause havoc on his equipment. So at the very least, I think we need to make sure that something is done, or whatever Tom feels appropriate, so he's not beating his equipment up and breaking it all winter, because it's still going to need access.
Have we already passed the normal deadline for the asphalt companies to be excited?
I believe so, especially with this year with the weather that they've had.
Yeah, they're backed up.
It's tough. They're really struggling. Every job I have that has an open contract has been slipping because of the weather.
But you don't see this as a within-the-month emergency?
No.
So we're visiting the roads Wednesday morning. So I think we really have to look at it more carefully, given the amount of these bids.
I agree.
And then the second question is the geotechnical study and pins and measuring fall. Any comments on that aspect?
To solve the problem, you need the geotechnical, don't you?
I think without getting some additional information, you're just kind of throwing a dart, blindfolded. There's no guarantee that this is going to be the magic solution, but I think the more information you have, the better educated solution you can make. And I think that's where you are.
So, given the estimate is 35 to 38,000,
35 to 45.
so we need to bid that.
No, that would be professional services, and I don't think your engineering services, your professional services need to be competitively bid.
Do you feel that bid is competitive, that
Yes.
price?
Yeah, we've worked with this firm before. They are an expert. When we talked to firms, we made sure we did not use the firm that worked on the Walmart site. And this firm actually was the one that they brought in to try to figure out how to fix the Walmart site. So they do large earthwork, and this is what they do.
Have you worked with Gannett Plumbing at all?
They're a competitor, so typically not.
Okay.
I can't say we have never worked with them, but I have never worked with them.
It came up because they've done some work in Osborne, and apparently people were pretty satisfied, but we are not required to do 3 bids.
Yep. You got professional services contracts are an exception to competitive bidding.
All right, Jerry, do I hear a motion in
what's-
regard to
we
this?
just-
We have an actual proposal to authorize, where we need to get a formal.
I would like to prepare a formal proposal for you
Okay.
guys to review.
Okay.
That's typically how we operate. And then you have,
What's the timing on
I move
that?
that the engineer be authorized to prepare a formal request for proposal.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Done.
next month. All right.
Any discussion
No,
after the fact?
I just got
Okay.
I got my answer.
And,
I just want to ask a question of a resident of Rose Avenue. With the proposal and after the installation, what's the timeline on them having the data to report back out to be making those decisions?
Typically a year. You'd like to see a whole cycle, freeze-thaw cycle. The discussion was install them, go back the next day, make sure they're working, check them again in a week, make sure they're working, then we'll check them in a month, then we'll check them in quarterly or after a large rain event. But you want to get that one full year of data to see how it's operating throughout the year. So that's your time period.
are they doing cores? Does the proposal include cores?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Gwen, do you have a copy of the draft proposal from the geotechnical?
Not right here.
Okay.
I might have a draft.
There is one available if anyone wants to look at it. So the geotechnical firm can have that by the workshop meeting next month.
Yes.
All right, next.
Next, board had asked HRG to take a look at potential traffic calming along McCoy Place Road as well as Weber Road. There was some discussions of, I think, speed, cars not staying in their lane, some blind curves, and were there some passive or non-structural things that could be done for public safety. We had looked at a couple different options for these roads, followed some planning documents provided by the board. We've come up with kind of this proposal that's a combination of line striping, signage, and pavement markings. A couple other items that I think were looked at and ruled out were chicanes, which would be, for lack of better terms, curvy roadways. Bump outs, which were narrow roadways. The idea is as the road gets narrow, people slow down because they feel constricted. Just a couple of limiting factors on these roads are you have very limited right of way. A couple of them are cut into the hillside, so that limits your grading abilities to do anything, and the pavement's narrow. So think of a more urban street. You know, I'll use Coriopolis as an example. You have parking on both sides. You know, you could do a concrete or pavement marking bump out at the intersections to get the pedestrians closer so that it's a shorter walking distance and to narrow the cars down. You don't have that option here. You have a lane of pavement. You don't have a really off-street parking. If people are parking off the side of the roads here, they're either half in the yard, all in the road yard, or all in the lane and you're driving around them. Like usually when the UPS truck stops, you're trying to drive around them. A couple other items we looked at were the grooved pavement. So if you drive down the highway and you drift off the shoulder line like I typically do, you hear that thump, 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 thump. Probably not good in a residential area. You can only imagine people driving on the center line or the shoulder at night and the residents hearing that. So we ruled those out. Another option that we ruled out was raised pavement marking. So you stack a couple above and it almost acts like a rumble strip on a highway. Again, ruled those out, noise residential area. So kind of what we've come up with here are signage, pavement markings on the pavement that you can see, and a double yellow line, especially around McCoy Place with the S-curve. As you're coming around the curve, you may have tendency to drift out and take your half out of the middle. I think the double yellow helps keep people on their side of the road so there's not a blind head-on collision. So that was kind of the situation that we've looked at. And then we received 2 quotes to do this work. Would need a third, but until I went too crazy, I wanted to get some feedback, but I also wanted you to have the information to have an idea what level of project you're looking at. You know, total for both roads, I had one quote for $6,700 and one quote for $9,375. This was paint. The idea was the paint was that it could be refreshed by the township forces versus the tape, which as it peels off is much more expensive to put back down. It will be a maintenance item that paint will have to be refreshed probably every 2 to 3 years depending on the weather. And I assumed that signs would be purchased and installed by township forces, so they were not included in the estimate.
Is this in our budget for this year? I'm sorry.
No.
I don't think so.
But it's an amount that we might be able to find a line item for.
I had one question on these, Ben, regarding the schematic for, sorry. Weber Road. I just wanted to know, like on McCoy, this double line was extended throughout quite a larger area where, you know, obviously really well thought because there's probably a lot of speeding throughout there. Even after the bend, people pick up speed because it's such a straight area and start speeding again. So the double line I think looks great on that. I just wanted to know on McCoy though, Weber, why the line only is around, the double line is only going around the curve and then it kind of stops instead of continuing straight on Weber till at least the next stop sign.
Yeah, we were kind of directed to focus on that area, but it could be extended down to each intersection without too much aggravation. It would probably look better.
I guess
honestly.
to residents that live on Weber, are you seeing speeding after the bend up to that first stop sign when you're going inbound on Weber Road?
Up the hill, down the hill.
Up the hill, in, or out, on the flat part where before you hit that stop
Well, I
sign?
don't live up that far. Dawn has a better observation of that, excuse me. I don't see nearly as much speeding as there used to be. But there are always one or two people that are running late or just ignore the situation. So I'm not saying there shouldn't be additional support to control the speeding, but I think the police and the board and the residents working together really kind of got that problem under control right now. But there is, like I said, there's always one or two.
There's a lot more than one or two.
So, I mean,
I disagree with my good friend here. They have not slowed down.
He definitely has a better
I have a better
advantage point.
So-
I will concede.
So as you can see, Art, I just gave Dawn a copy of the proposal. And
Yeah, I have expressed in the past, I'm not a big fan of a lot of signs and painting, but there's a public safety issue, so I understand that. You know, you have to do what you have to do.
I think for tonight, commissioners, if you have questions specifically for Ben, ask.
yes.
And then we'll take these home, we'll look at the budget.
I would like another estimate if possible to just what the cost would be to extend the double line all the way to that first stop sign.
Okay, from
From
the fire station all the way up to the next true intersection, it's not Vescio.
No, actually from at the top of the hill where it flattens out. Towards where that little park site we were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, where I live, I can't see the road.
Ben, what would make you comfortable to proceed to 3 bids?
It's not a big deal. I think it's resubmitting new lengths to the existing 2 and finding a third. There are limited folks that do this. You know, the pavers I talked with suggested these 2. We could find another one, obviously. The one thing that kind of as we worked through this and thought about it was, our concern is both of these roads are, well, not technically, basically dead-end streets. So I think the majority of the folks using them are the residents that live there and maybe close family. So I do think some of these traffic calming effects have a better use on through roads, shortcut roads, where this, my only concern and question and not knowing, not living on those roads of how effective will these be in 6 months, would be my question.
So I don't hear from anybody that this is a drop-dead project. I think the inclination is to proceed. So would somebody like to make a motion to authorize Ben to proceed with additional quotes and adjustment of what your suggestion implies?
That's like 3 motions there, it sounds like.
Commissioner, I have one question. Ben, do any of these alternatives require a PennDOT approved study or a PennDOT permit?
No, they're all on township-owned roads.
I had a similar thought. We put lines, we distract people. Is there any liability to this?
Well, I mean, that's why you have an engineer who advise you.
So, a couple of other things we looked at. everything we specified on those plans came from a PennDOT reference drawing. One, it allows the people to do this work to quote it, and we're comparing apples to apples. And two, it is a PennDOT approved item. A couple other pavement markings that we've seen that are very interesting. There are some that are like a 3D mind trick that look like things are floating up out of the road or something is peculiar. We couldn't find anything that, those were PennDOT approved, so I would have some concerns there that if you would put something that is not PennDOT approved down, and someone were to get in an accident, it would bring liability on the township. So as interesting as they are and would be neat to see, I wouldn't want to come up on one on a rainy night and it just surprise you. The closest we could find in the United States that used them legitimately was in Oregon or Washington State.
Oregon.
Yeah, so that was my concern. I've heard rumblings of some folks around here looking into them. Asked the question to their solicitor of, so what happens when someone wrecks and this isn't PennDOT approved? And we got a very similar answer. That's your engineer's call.
There's another question.
Officer
I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. Before you sit down,
May I ask another question?
Yeah.
Please. I see on some of these bends, you have a reduced speed limit to 20. Is there a reason, just PennDOT approval of that? Why can't you change the speed limit for the whole?
The speed limit, there's a speed limit study if you're looking to drop the whole thing. And that is something we can look at. However, I believe it's only 25 now. I don't know if you're blowing through 25 if you're really going to respect the 20.
Yeah.
And you know, the reason that we're showing that is both horizontally and vertically your sight distance is limited because a lot of those are coming up around the bend, so you're up and around. You know, that is something if the township wants to look into doing a speed study, we can. The effectiveness, again, if you're running through at 25, I don't know if you're well, say going to follow 20. I don't know enforcement wise if that allows you any more flexibility.
I can only enforce 25. 25 is the minimum speed limit that I'm on. And then, and with that, as we've said many times before, you have to be doing, the magistrates in the area like to see about 15 over. You can stop 10 over, but they like to see 15 over for citations to be issued. So.
I remember my question. Because one of the first things I know that PennDOT wants to know in their study, has anyone done an accident history here? Is there any history of accidents or collisions or anyone being injured?
We did not. Would love to have that information from EMS. I don't know if you guys keep that detailed records on local road. I know state roads have them.
I can reference as far back as we've been patrolling Aleppo Township to find out if there has been any, but I give Gwen pretty much everything that comes across my desk. I don't recall us being responded to either locations.
One accident.
Help me out. When was that?
I want to say 2 years ago, over on the corner.
Tom?
Oh, yeah.
On the bend.
Right?
Lady was coming out around, and the guy comes back out of the driveway, sun blinded her.
Right.
But beyond that one, I do
Yeah,
now, I do,
absolutely.
thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, I forgot
Beyond
that.
that one, I do not
I don't know if anyone
recall
Weber.
anything like it.
All right, one at a time for the recording, and I've been a little careless to the podium when we speak from now on, okay? All right, so is there, I don't know that we even need a motion to have Ben proceed.
Yes, direction, revise the plan, get 3 new quotes.
Yeah.
Is that the direction?
So I'm unclear what the 3 new quotes were for. I just wanted a quote to extend the double line on Weber, so.
For you to do the work, you need 3 quotes, so we at least need to ask 3 people.
Oh, I see what you're
And
saying.
if only 2 apply, then so be it. We need to prove to ask 3. We've only asked 2 so far
Oh, okay.
because I didn't want to go crazy and you guys say, nope, don't like it, we want to go a completely different direction, so.
Okay.
It's part of the competitive
Yeah.
bidding.
No, I thought you were talking about McCoy and Weber, and I was
No.
like, I was getting
Right, so-
confused, sorry.
Would somebody like to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Someone try to read that back. Motion to direct HRG to revise the plan to show double yellow lines all the way up Weber and to get 3 new quotes.
Correct.
Correct.
And a second?
I'm the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next, Ben.
So I think the last item for me on the agenda is the township wanted, I guess out of concerns from emergency management and maybe some lessons learned out of our paving project in Sewickley Heights Manor, about the potential opportunity for a secondary access off of Sewickley Heights Drive, since that is a one-way boulevard type entrance. If there is an issue somewhere towards the entrance of the Sewickley Heights Manor, you are limited on your ability to get in and out. So we were asked to look at 2 locations. One off of Vescio Drive, connecting with what I'm being seen as Little Hollow, which is kind of a private drive off Sewickley Heights. And then another one kind of out at the teardrop, more towards the end of Sewickley Heights Manor to connect on a private drive, which ultimately goes out to Weber Road. We looked at 2 different cost estimates for both. The first one would be just simply gravel roadway, with the thought that this road would allow cars in and out, potentially emergency vehicles, which I would like some clarification on. It would be gated. It is not a permanent access, just to be used in emergencies only. So similar to what has been already proposed and used at the Masonic Village. The second item is that same kind of access, but with the reinforced turf. So it looks like grass, but it is reinforced so equipment can get out if it's muddy or the equipment is heavy. So those are the 2 numbers. You should see a third option back at the teardrop that shows more of a Y off of the private access. This was if we would want a fire truck to come in and out. This allows better for a turning radius of that vehicle. So I guess my next question is, do we want access just for an ambulance and or cars, or do we want to get a real fire truck to come in and out? And I think that's a question probably for the board and the appropriate emergency services. The prices that we identified were the one from Vescio utilizing what appears to be a paper street and maybe an easement on both the Sewickley Heights Manor property as well as the paper street on Vescio. I think both of these options require more study as to the extents and the limits of the easements. We did some preliminary deed research and things are questionable at best, but they appear to be shown on a plan. Whether they line up and how everything ties in, we did not go that far. We just kind of tried to see what was there existing. And then the second question with the private drive off of Weber Road, it appears that easement allows for access. We did not do enough research to tell if that access extends beyond the property into Sewickley Heights Manor. It appears the dead end at the last house. And there may be some additional road improvements that just be needed there to make that road wide enough for an emergency vehicle. But we at least wanted to get it out there, get some thoughts, get some feedback, and I think all options would require some real design to make sure we can get vertically and horizontally the vehicles in and out that are needed, and approach affected property owners, because you may or may not need to get additional property rights from them.
Commissioner comment?
First of all, this one off of Vescio is a totally different location than I was thinking of off of Vescio, so this actually looks better than the location I thought you guys were talking about off of Vescio. However, I mean, the pricing, it's so close. I guess the bigger question is going to be what kind of issues. I mean, this is something that Harlan will probably have to look into more, is which one's going to present bigger issues for us as far as acquiring the land or eminent domain, or however we might need to do this, or if we have an existing easement. So that to me is going to be the bigger issue here. The prices don't seem to be that different.
I would agree with you.
Tom and Gwen I won't make you move, so. This has been a long time coming,
Yes.
and who has requested most frequently this emergency exit?
I think the
Has it
fire
been-
company.
Fire?
Yeah.
So has the fire department seen this?
Fire chief has, and he said that the Vescio Drive option would be fine, and the back of Swickley Heights Drive option was fine. He did prefer the one lane at the back of Swickley Heights Drive, because I think his thought in this was less about access for emergency vehicles and more about release access for cars, residents. Like, the fire trucks will get where they need to go, and you don't need to worry about that. It's more about getting the cars out. If there's a long-term incident and the road is closed, how do we let people out of the neighborhood? So he did prefer the one lane option he didn't prefer one Vescio versus Swickley Heights Drive, but of the three that you have here, the last one with 2 turns off of the back of Swickley Heights Drive, he didn't feel that was necessary. He thought that the one would be sufficient, given that the goal was getting cars, residential cars out. And not just.
That was the primary goal, as I
It
recall.
is, yes,
It's an
and this is
emergency.
not emergency. So, I mean, number one, we hope we never have to use this.
Yeah.
And number two, it wouldn't be, if there's an emergency situation, cars aren't, it's not just a road to be used to run errands all day long. It's get out in an emergency or stay put in an emergency. It's not just gonna be a new throughway for anybody.
Tom, if Public Works has any input tonight, would you come to the podium? If not, you're fine.
I would
That-
say,
that-
no, I agree with what Bull said about up at the end, the Swickley Heights Drive, the cul-de-sac, taking one lane, because I think it's the lesser of two evils, easiest access down to Weber, because if you come off Vescio up through where you're talking, there's a main water line that goes up through there into the manor. So there's always a possibility. You never know.
And I believe the complication to that issue is more properties, more rights of way.
With
Potentially.
Vescio? With Vescio?
No, we just don't know yet. We don't know yet what kind of what the legal components are for either location.
And I don't want to jump to conclusions, but just having looked at it very quickly, there could be rights-of-way issues on either one of them. I think, just looking at it again, it looks like the Weber Road might be an easier in terms of rights-of-way. Vescio might be a tougher option in terms of the existing or the necessary right-of-way.
And aside from rights of way and other property issues, do you see any reason that one is the better option than the other?
I think they both have merit. My experience coming out of the paving project there and the traffic control issues that we had were, it seems like the residents aren't as familiar with behind the buildings if it's not their building. So if you were to keep it on the main drag, which would be the Weber Road one, may be better. I have some grading concerns there and tie-in concerns, which could all be addressed with further design. But I think they're even. That one to me seems like the shorter amount of distance it needs to go, and would probably be the most comfortable with folks that don't know. I mean, that was the big takeaway that it appeared clear out of the paving project that if you lived in the front, you never really went in the back unless you had a friend there or something. You didn't know the other ways to get around closures. I think that would make sense.
Yeah.
All right, so I think the first step, as Commissioner Jarrett said, would you like to make a motion?
Well, I move that we proceed to determine what the property access issues are. That's the next step.
So to authorize our solicitor?
Yes.
Well, in coordination with the engineer.
Gwen, will you look over my shoulder and make sure that's happening?
Motion to authorize the solicitor in coordination with the engineer to investigate the legal,
Property access issues.
the property access issues for the emergency exit.
Yeah, both proposed emergency exits.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much, Ben. See you
Thank you.
Wednesday morning.
Okay. Y'all need me for anything else?
Well, excuse me.
Good.
All right.
All right, thank you.
See ya.
Thanks,
Commu-
Ron.
Communications?
Just wanted to update everyone that I was not able to master the digest process but after the workshop this time, so there won't, clearly we're already at the legislative meeting. So my goal was to get a digest of this meeting out, by early next week. So I'm working on learning what Matt always sent out, so I'm gonna keep at it. So hopefully we'll be able to keep some continuity with that.
Good. And I think we said this before, but in the interim, until we reorganize, if the public has any communications about issues at this meeting or other issues, they should go direct to Gwen.
Yeah, email me, call me anytime with questions, and I'll get back to you.
And then if there are those that want to come before us, she can read them as Matt used to.
And the meetings are still being recorded, so even though you didn't get a digest for the workshop, the meeting itself is still available on YouTube.
All right, planning and zoning.
There's a motion that was made at the legislative meeting last month, so we don't need a motion or a second, we just need a vote.
Right. So there is a motion to appoint Braden Blosser to the zoning hearing board to complete the term ending December 31st, 2020. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I guess again. Finance.
Oh, good evening, everybody. You should have in your packets the tax collecting report and the treasurer report summarizing all of the accounts and whatnot. So for the month of June, you received $6,547.17 in property tax, $0 in delinquent real estate tax, $189,249.76 in realty transfer tax, $37,789.59 for earned income, $1,450.96 for local services tax, and $10,070 for the business privilege. So a grand total of taxes collected for the month of June was $245,107.48. On your pages 3 and 4 of your report, give you a breakdown comparing June of 2019 to last year, June of 2018. And then there's also a comparison year-to-date 2019 to our budget. We are currently about $75,000 over budget as of the halfway point in revenue. So doing quite well for this year, just to kind of let you know that. The other things are just comparing 2018 numbers to the budget, and then obviously 2019 year-to-date to 2018 year-to-date, and that just kind of gives you those bar graphs with all of that. Anybody have any questions about the revenue side so far? Okay. As to your ending account balances, the PNC checking account has $495,758.67. The Pliget accounts, which is the state fund, $77,681.81. The general investment account has $982,529.33. The reserve fund has $109,193.25. And the capital improvement fund has $483,048.93. So total monies on hand for the month of June is $2,148,211.99. If you subtract out the pledged funds and the targeted funds, which is the capital, the reserve, and the liquid fuels account, you have total operating funds of $1,478,288 for the month of June. I also give you both the sewer bond account and the sewer capital account ending balances as well for any of that. Any questions with any of that information?
And this is the time of year I say that a lot of our revenue comes from property taxes, and it's all, the bulk of it is in, so we won't be seeing this kind of growth the rest of the year. We now have to live with what we have, so now you're just gonna start seeing things go down rather than up.
But the
Just a
earned-
reminder.
The earned income and
The earned
local
income
services
tax
tax.
is-
They still come in.
Straight line.
They're level, but the property tax is all
That's-
mostly in.
Right, and when the audit, you anticipate?
It's underway, underway.
So I think when the audit comes in, we'll do a assessment of year-to-date budget, and we'll also look at the audit, do some comparisons. So I'd say a month, 60 days, we can dig in a little bit.
Is that a yes?
The Township
Yep.
Volunteer Fire Company, the
Definitely
county
gonna dig in.
review report was submitted this month also.
Okay. You want to discuss it?
Well, it's satisfactory is what the review says.
Okay. Thank you, Clay.
Any other questions, concerns?
No,
Any questions from the residents?
Thank you.
Thank you.
need a motion.
Yep.
Motion.
Mr. Williams, Commissioner Williams?
I make a motion to approve the June bill list in the amount of $49,758.35, to ratify the June prepaid bills in the amount of $14,741.91, and to ratify June payroll transfers in the amount of $18,599.59.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, sorry.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aleppo Township Authority.
This is as of June. There was a pump failure at the Deer Run pumping station. The pump was taken out of service, the spare was put in, and the pump that failed was sent off for repair, rebuilding, at an estimated cost of $10,000. Engineer indicated that there wasn't anything unusual about the pump failing at that point in its life, so didn't think there was any.
Are these still the German pumps?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why it takes so
Harlan, do you know the update on the house in Glenfield that seems to have walked off with 700,000 gallons of water?
Oh, yeah, I talked to Nicole about that, and she suggested that I talk about it with Bull and to get more details about the timing. So, I'll do that, but knowing what I do know about our rules and regulations and a little bit about criminal law, it sounds to me like you have a theft of water services. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to prosecute it, but I think you also have a violation of your rules and regulations with respect to how it's handled. So you can't siphon off
700,000 gallons?
dollars worth of water and not pay for it. So that's the
Apparently
bottom line.
this house called to have the water turned off, the meter. However, when the property changed hands 2 years later, when they went to read the meter, it was 700,000 gallons higher than when it was turned off 2 years before.
So perhaps somebody turned it back on.
Yeah, perhaps.
wide open.
Also, we received from Banks and Engineers the draft long-range plan for sewer and water systems. It's being reviewed by Bull, and we'll see what comments he has, and then it will be finalized. We think we have a settlement with regard to our Culligan issue. We can talk about that in executive session. That's it for June.
May I ask a question, whenever you get
Yes.
of the authority?
Yes.
I saw on the Allegheny County website that somebody bought the property down there, that took that deal and everything, and the map looks like that it encompasses the packaging plant.
I'm sorry, it encompasses to what?
If you look at the map on the Allegheny County website, somebody had bought that hillside and the top there. Well, the map comes down and it encompasses the packaging plant down there, the pump station.
It includes the pump station property, you're saying?
Yes. Now, we all know that the maps sometimes are wrong, but what if it's right? And the person owns the pump station.
Well,
Who's the purchaser?
I guess what I would say, we have to find out whether there's any accuracy to the map that you're looking at,
Okay.
and whether anybody's making any claim that they now own our pump station.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, because when
Okay.
I saw that, it didn't look right.
That pump station before that was a package plant, so it's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Someone might have a
35
title claim.
35 or 40 years.
There was a
Yeah.
subdivision done around the time of the project, so we'll have to look back and see if the county ever caught up.
Can
with
you do that?
I can start, look out, I can try.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Good point. Commissioner Williams, you had?
Ambulance Authority?
No, no. All right, Quaker Valley Ambulance Authority,
No report.
Quaker Valley COG.
No report this month. I forgot that Matt was no longer
Well,
in
the
line.
meeting is tomorrow, or Wednesday evening,
I
and it's gonna be here. So,
Yeah, I told him I'd be there.
will you be there? Okay, we'll talk about building access.
Did everybody get this?
Yeah.
I think so.
All right, so in the commissioner's packet, which we won't deal with tonight, but there's a list of all the committees and the chairs. And during the reorganization, we'll have to redo that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Solicitor, I have a question. Can you explain to the board about reorganization, when it needs to occur, what your recommendations are?
Sure. And one thing, and I think maybe under the First Class Township Code, or whether it's just common practice, but I believe the prerogative of designating committee chairs belongs to the president, belongs to the chair. So we may want to talk about it beforehand, but in terms of the actual appointments and the committee assignments, that's the prerogative of the chair typically.
Thank you.
All right.
So reorganization. Reorganization is, under the First Class Township Code, is required at the beginning of every new board term. So generally on municipal elections, that runs 2 years. Every 2 years, you're required to reorganize. Any organization has the option, if it so chooses, of reorganizing in between. I mean, that becomes an option. Usually, that doesn't happen in the middle of the cycle, unless there's a significant change in the board structure, in which case you want to re-elect and have a new election on officers' positions, which really is the only function of the reorganization. It's to elect your officers. So,
Of which there are 2?
there's the president, the vice president, and I think we have a secretary treasurer, one spot for a secretary treasurer.
And we never have appointed that position, so if there is, we've never had that.
Okay. But, I mean, a lot of townships do. I'd have to look at your bylaws.
So when we fill the seat of the vacant chair, we have no obligation to reorganize?
Correct. I mean, your only statutory obligation is every 2 years at the beginning of a municipal, after a municipal election.
And in this particular case, who is serving as vice president?
Currently?
I guess me. Who would run the meeting? Who would run the meeting if I wasn't here?
Okay, so again, just going back to the general principles, it is one of the duties of the president, or the vice president, is to serve in an interim capacity for the president in the absence of the president, either due to disability or due to resignation. So, as the vice president, it is part of your duties in an interim fashion question to run the meetings.
And should I not
This
be
is
here?
The senior most board member present in your absence would then run the meeting. please.
So Commissioner Williams. Okay.
Sorry, what?
All right, that clarifies that. Unfinished business, property cleanup at 690 Glen Mitchell Road.
How'd it go?
Well, you have in your packet, at the workshop meeting, you had asked Mr. Meaner for the answers to 3 questions that came out of your discussion last week, and he provided documentation that he said answers those 3 questions.
I agree, his documentation does answer those questions and indicates to me anyway that he's done what he's required to do. The only question I'd have is, since he stores tires there for a considerable period of time, whether under our storage code, whether he needs a permit.
I think he does. I think under that, we should look at it, but I think he does. As much as something similar with Swiggler.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I'll look at it, and I think the answer is yes.
So is that a question to Mr. Meaner? Does he have a permit?
Well, we know he doesn't because nobody's gotten one. We only created our application.
Yeah, we did that last year.
Okay.
A couple months ago.
Has Swiftly gotten there?
Swiftly submitted an application, it was just needed to be supplemented. We haven't heard from them,
Haven't
right?
heard back on that, yes.
Next time you talk to Jeff, you might want to remind him we're waiting for it.
So there was a motion approved to authorize Gwen to have the DEP go to Mr. Meaner's site. Since that time, we've asked him for additional information, which seems to be satisfactory. And Commissioner Dara, I think you have an opinion about the previous action.
Well, I think at this point, given what we were supplied with and an indication that his tank is small enough that it's not subject to regulation under the Pennsylvania DEP rules and regulations, there's nothing for DEP's jurisdiction to go out and look at.
So I guess we need a counter motion to withdraw the action
Well,
by
whoever
Gwen.
whoever made that motion in the first instance can simply withdraw it at this point.
I will withdraw the motion. I don't know if I made it, but I'll withdraw the motion.
Does that require a second?
Second.
I don't know, but that never hurts.
Doesn't cost any
I'll
more than a
second.
second.
On the motion by whomever.
So this was a motion to withdraw previous motion to request the DEP make a site visit.
Correct.
Right.
And do we need a second motion to
Well, have a
start the process of a permit?
Well, I think that we should start with having Harlan look at the question and advise us whether a storage lot permit is
Shaking my head, just,
appropriate.
why don't you?
So authorized.
Authorize me and I'll look at it.
So authorized. Any other discussions about the property cleanup at
Yes.
690?
Yes. Gwen, refresh my memory, please. When it comes to the tires, as I recall, Mr. Meaner said that he kept the tires in an appropriate place until it had built up a volume, well, which is economically realistic for someone to come and pick them up.
Yes, that's what he said.
Who's controlling it? He or the person that's picking it up in the truck?
Controlling what?
How high the stack of tires gets.
I think it was the way it sounded like what he explained to me was he waits for a certain number. I don't know what the stacking, whether it's this way or this way. But he waits for a certain number, like you said, to make it worth
I
his
assume
while
it's
to pay
he
for
based
it.
upon a good price.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to back into.
Right. But he showed us the one invoice.
Right. And it looks like he waits until he's got a truckload.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so. Which is nothing really wrong with it. I just,
Okay.
there's a back door there, and I'm not going to make a big to-do out of it. Unless we see the tires for the road.
Any other discussion about the cleanup at 690 from either the residents or commissioners?
I just wanted to investigate a little further on what type of permits he needs overall to operate his facility properly. Not through DEP, just in general. I'm just doing a little investigation into that. I've already called some people. I'm waiting on return phone calls, so.
I think Commissioner Dublaga was told to contact Allegheny County Health by the DEP, and you're awaiting their call.
Yeah.
May I ask something?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Do you know approximately how many tires he has there? And the reason I ask that is, with a certain number of tires, that you would think that it would pose a safety hazard if a fire would ensue, because it's almost impossible to put out tire fires.
Right. He gave us one invoice.
Yeah.
My thought is a couple hundred.
There was like 200 or 250 or something.
What kind of trucks are you gonna haul them away in?
He hires a company too that comes out, a tire recycling company. So he hires them and pays them to haul the tires away.
I mean, I'm aware of a tire fire in the central PA that's been going for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, you're right. But it seems as if he's waiting for a proper load. He's not hoarding them.
Could the commission draw an ordinance of the amount of tires that a business can store?
Well,
For safety reasons.
we have a storage ordinance that's potentially applicable, and assuming that it is, we could regulate how many tires are there through that storage permit.
Yeah, because if, it probably would never happen, but if, God forbid, something does happen, and he's got all those woods there, it could almost be a catastrophe.
That was brought up during our emergency management planning. So I think we can address that maybe in the permitting process or by having Harlan look more at the ordinances. So good point.
Thank you.
Any other comments about the cleanup at 690 Glen Mitchell Road? And next, do I hear a motion to appoint Amy Richard to the Board of Commissioners?
So be moved.
Move. Second.
Any discussion?
Create a second motion to defer that for 1 month.
Well, any discussion? Amy, you have anything to say?
Haven't changed your mind?
I didn't see you run for the door. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
If you vote now, then you're not deferring it.
Oh,
Right.
No, we got
We
it.
didn't defer.
I'm sorry.
I
We
would like
didn't
to
vote.
create a second motion to defer this for 1 month.
1 month.
To allow for public comment or any, just other people to participate or submit resumes as well, because this position only recently became open.
So all in favor of the motion to defer?
Aye.
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 All right.
You second the motion to defer?
Art.
Amy, this is no reflection on you? Okay.
We're a little rusty
But
with
we're-
Matt here.
Get the hang of that.
Well, we've had a process and procedure to make sure that when these circumstances come up, that we go to the nth degree to make sure that there's enough information out there in the community to alert someone who may have a desire. And if not, we move on.
And we consider this an important decision.
Yes.
So I think even more important to just let it out there for 30 days, and it is our common procedure. Welcome.
You notice we put 3 people on either side so that you
I can't leave.
you can't bolt. You can't bolt. Yes, right.
So Gwen gave a list of committee assignments under new business, and I'd ask everybody to look at those and prepare for in January or even maybe sooner which committees you might be interested in chairing. And we do have 2 vacancies as a result of Matt, one of which has been accepted by Gwen. So just take a look.
I would be interested in the COG position in addition to planning and zoning, if no one else is, unless Art wants to do that, because Art was already going to do that, right?
Good.
I'm sorry, what? Did
Are
I
you-
hear my
would you-
name again?
Yeah. Would you like to continue being the chair for COG meetings?
Yes, I guess
Okay.
so.
All right.
They've asked me to. I mean, the college has asked me to,
Okay, all right.
but
So if you would all
you
think
can,
of,
if you're volunteering to back me up when I can't be there, that's fine.
Sure.
if you would all take a look at that, let me know which committees you'd be interested in serving. Apparently I can appoint you. Any other new business?
We just discussed for the next agenda, Gwen and I had already mentioned this, that we'll have on, for new business for next month to review Matt's rules of order, the Robert's Rules of Order for the township that we got a copy of last week.
Yeah.
Review and discuss those, and I don't know if we need a motion on those or that's just going to be our procedure.
Gwen, would it be helpful if people have comments to send them to you in writing?
Yes, sure, then I'll compile them and then get them back to everyone, and you can read them in advance and talk about.
I don't
what you
recall,
have.
was it sent as an editable document?
I don't know.
No.
No.
I don't think
Okay.
so.
So you have to do it on a separate comment.
Yeah, if everyone redlines it, then it's a mess.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's better if written comments, and then I can kind of incorporate them. I'm not gonna change the document because it's someone's opinion, so I'll just compile them for you.
Ron, have you had a chance to look at it?
I did,
Okay, so you can comment too.
sure. Yeah, no, I looked good.
Actually, this is actually on the old business, unfinished business. We had discussed having a planning procedure for tracking projects and to-do lists that was being done, but I just wanted it to be more publicly available, as well as maybe a slightly different system. So Gwen created this draft, and which says, the current outstanding topics. For instance, we are working on traffic calming, we're working on emergency exit options for the manor, we're working on Red Gate Road, the collapse issue with PennDOT. Our fracking ordinance needs to be updated, we've reviewed that and approved that. Still needs to be, I guess, put into, actually drafted.
Yeah, Harlan's working on that ordinance update.
The revised, cleanup of the lot on Glen Mitchell Road that's owned by Swickley, the revised 537 plan.
Wait, time out. Did we get the maps that we needed?
Okay, I'll
We're hoping to get them this week. Their person was out on vacation last week, so
Sorry.
hoping to get
No
them.
problem. The potential park, which I think we would address next year based on the budget, on Weber Road, the purchase of the bingo lots, the truck parking issue on Deer Run and Merriman Road, the ASO plan, and the most recent issue with Rhodes Avenue. And then there's a list of goals that we had set at the beginning of the year that are also on here. I won't go into all of these, but what I had suggested that Gwen and I had discussed was to just create a spreadsheet with, a column that's, the item, issue, or topic, second column, status, or the date of initiation, then a status column and maybe a comment column, and just put that up on the board, and then on a monthly basis, update it as necessary, so we keep track of what we're working on, and we don't, nothing really slips. And if there's something we cannot resolve, we have a comment, we could not resolve this, and this is why. Other than things that are obviously need to be in a legislative session, or executive session, I'm sorry.
Good idea.
All right. If there's anything on this list as well that you think needs to be added, please let Gwen know. But any things we've discussed that you can recall that,
Yeah, great.
Any other new business? There was one other, we received a bid from NYRA, a proposal from NYRA in regard to building inspection and code enforcement. Has anybody had an opportunity to look at that?
I did.
I did.
Are there any comments at this point?
I thought it was fairly well written. So I don't really have any in-depth comments.
Gwen, did you send our current contract to everybody?
I did.
Have any of you had a chance to compare what we
Yes.
have against?
No, I didn't.
Yes, I did. The other, Gwen and I were talking about this, the other plan, the current contract is more on a task-related cost, and this is based on an hourly consulting rate, so it's kind of hard to compare the two.
Yep.
So in that regard, it makes it a little difficult to say one is better than the other. So I really don't know how to proceed with that at this point.
Once again, if we have specific comments, I think they'll be pretty straightforward. Could you get those in writing to Gwen? And then at the workshop meeting next month, we're going to have an executive session to discuss this relative to other aspects.
I guess I would ask that, you know, we just take this current proposal and ask for more
Right.
specifics as
Right.
far as task-related costs, if we want to also get it.
No, you're correct. The one says $90 an hour, the other says $40 an hour plus 15 cents per square foot. So it's hard to determine if he walks into a condominium, how long it's going to take him versus the 40 times the 15 cents. So we'll need some clarification, and then we need clarification on exactly who from NIRA, based upon their hourly wage, will be responsible for what. And so that everybody knows the building inspection is predominantly reimbursed. If not 100%, 99.9%. It's the code enforcement, which is minimal action, that we have to pay for. Any other new business? Citizen participation. Yes, ma'am, welcome.
Thank you. Valerie Gaines, State Representative for the 44th District. We have nothing to report other than it's Tuesday, and we're usually in session on Tuesdays, and I wanted to come make sure I hear what you guys have to, is on your agenda, and if there's also anything I can do and make sure I'm accessible. Our office has taken a look around the district too for like flooding, Red Gate Road. We've contacted PennDOT, so if there's anything, you know, my office can do to support that, just want to make sure that I'm accessible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
I guess I have one quick question. Has the state moved forward at all on a funding pool for landslides?
We're working on that now, presently,
I mean,
yeah.
it must be statewide.
It is terrible, and it's all throughout the 44th district, so that's something that we're in the process of addressing, but if there's anything specific that you want to share with my office, make sure I give you the numbers, and please share that with us so that we can double team them.
Thank you.
And there was also an effort being done by the county, Richard Fitzgerald's office, to come up with a task force, in addition to that bill that was struck down last year, but they're trying to figure it out again in Harrisburg.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff too that they're addressing stormwater management.
Yeah.
Now that they're enabling to use Marcellus Shale impact fee money for stormwater management, that's actually in the process right now.
Good. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other citizen participation? Chris?
Chris Grim, 1255 Merriman Road. One thing I want to bring up is the stormwater drain is going in my yard. It's been doing that for, I can't even remember how long, since my parents have been, alive. I don't know if there's a solution we can actually to fix it or whatnot. Last year they actually put like a catch base, because when it comes off of Nancy, I get a lot of pine needles, I get gravel right in the yard. So it's just, I don't know what best solution. I don't want to keep on calling, Gwen saying, hey, Winion's guy's going to throw it back in, so I'm not getting all these needles and gravel in my yard while I'm cutting the grass.
Is the water coming out of Nancy coming across Merriman and onto your property?
You know where the telephone pole is, right on Nancy there?
Yes.
There's a storm drain there. What happened years ago before they put the industrial park in, I guess it went straight out into the field.
Oh.
So I guess after previous years, it kind of collapsed. And my parents were ones to not come down to the meeting to speak up and say anything unless it was life or death. But it's just to the point where it's like, you know, the gravel's getting thicker, pine needles are getting bad, and it's just, I'm worried with all the rain we're having that it's gonna start flooding the house.
Any knowledge, Tom?
To my knowledge, I'll be here 17 years. Merriman used to be a state road. The state put all those catch basins in years ago. And to my knowledge, that concrete pipe is ended so far down the bank in his yard. So I mean, it used to be a state road, and that's basically where the state used to daylight everything. So it's always been like that as long as I've been here.
Who has done the repairs or cleanup at this point, Chris?
Of cleaning up of what?
Well, you said somebody came down and put something in.
We put a silt sock in that catch basin, but Mr. Ferry, when he cuts his grass, I hate to put him under the thing, blows it all out on the road. You know, when it rains, everything goes.
Is he aware of that?
I don't know if he's aware of it, because I didn't really ever mention it to him. You know, the other neighbors I've talked to, you know.
Would you mention it to him?
Oh, I can, but it's just the problem is with all the rain we're having, I'm still getting water in the yard and it's on at the edge.
We'll put the silt sock back in, but it was just getting to the point.
When the state built this, or whoever built this, how far out did their drain run?
And then into his yard, there's that bank, a hillside.
Yeah.
And it comes out that elevation down there in daylights, right in the yard.
The most part of it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
One of the reasons that's happening is before the Grimms moved there, before everything was here, it was a hillside, and that pipe just deadheaded right there because it went down into the creek. Because our property was the same way, the state put a pipe through. The problem is they filled this all in, and when they filled it all in, they filled up toward Grimm's house, which was Thomas's at the time. They didn't do anything with that pipe. And so, the township put a curb in front of my house to catch the water coming from Deer Run that was missing their catch basins. So, I don't know, I can't remember if you have a curb in front of your house, Chris.
Well, it's going down in the yard where he's saying. It's
The
not
pipe.
the pipe where he's talking about. It's not the water on the road.
Ours does too, but the
Yeah.
state put a pipe in around 60 years ago.
Tom, aside from the grass cutting, are there other simple and straightforward things that could be done?
I mean,
He had a curb or something, or?
curb's not gonna solve the problem we're
Oh.
talking about.
Okay.
The pipe is down in the
Pipe
yard.
comes out and just drops in his yard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm getting all the water coming off and then all the rain in my yard, so it's like double the amount of water.
And if that pipe were extended,
Can't extend
where does
that.
it extend
You'd be
to?
going right into the building in the industrial park.
Then you'd be flooding them up.
The only other option, I mean, we take that pipe down Merriman to the next catch basin.
No.
That's the one that runs.
No, you have to actually go past here because it's tin whistle down there. So you have to actually go on the other side to the first entrance to Masonic.
Oh, so that one down by the hydrant.
Yeah. Coming down the road.
That'll work.
Could we add that to our tour on Wednesday?
And you're more welcome to walk in the yard to see where it actually comes out. I actually put a
I
pipe
just
so
don't
when
quite
I cut the
understand
grass,
the
there's
issue.
actually the gravel pipe, whatever, what is it, cement pipe or whatever?
Concrete pipe.
Concrete pipe, so this way when I cut, the grass upwards, it just makes my life easier. But you're more welcome to walk in the yard too.
And Chris, do you feel comfortable talking to your neighbor?
Oh, yeah.
Even though it's a small part of the problem, it is part of the problem? And if you need more formal notification, then we can write a letter to them.
I'd be able to talk to them, no problem.
Okay, good.
All right, let us know.
All right,
Anything
the
else,
other-
Chris?
The other thing I have, what was it? Last month or so, we had the wires down from Verizon.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Just about the signs the other day from Walsh.
Okay. I actually called 911 twice to actually have a police officer come out to me and talk to me about the situation. Because the Verizon lines were currently down for a good couple hours throughout the day. So when I called 911, I wanted to speak to an officer. And I did not actually see an officer come out. So I had a radio that I actually use for my ham radio. And it actually has the police frequency on it. And I was actually currently listening to it at that time. He called back to 911 and stated that he did not see an issue or problem with the intersection. And
Who called back?
I called him back
Okay.
because he literally drove by and waved. And this was actually before quitting time for Masonic Village. The one picture where they're actually exiting the do not enter was probably about 5 o'clock. And that was my biggest issue, was with them exiting out that entrance where it's do not enter. At that time, you would have an accident if you had paramedics or EMS coming through. So I walked down there, still saw the barricades. Verizon wasn't nowhere in sight. I saw Braid and I was talking to him a little bit. And we were kind of curious, why was the road still closed? Well, Verizon moved the lines, but they said, when I talked to the officer, that the lines were moved, but it was only road was closed because high vehicles, they were afraid with some of the lines, hanging down. But when I heard the call on my radio that the cop was just going back, he was going to call me on my cell phone. He did not call me on my cell phone. He did not stop. And when I called the second time, I told him I wanted to see an officer. So when he said, he was clearing it out, I called the station. He said he called me like 3 times and one time at the station. He never called my cell phone. He said he left a message. He never called me. He said he did not see a problem or any hazards of the intersection. And meanwhile, when he was down here talking to the Verizon, there was a car actually driving out the do not enter intersection. Then the other thing too is those barricades are painted on. The barricades were probably up after 9:30 at night. They do not have no reflecting on the barricades, so this way when somebody's coming down, leaving Masonic Village, they don't realize there's barricades because there's no reflecting tape on it. And my biggest issue is, I called 911 twice, telling me I wanted to speak to an officer, and he just drove by and waved. And when I talked to him on the phone at the station where he said he attempted to call me, which he did not call me, that he said he did not see an issue of that intersection. And I had the pictures on my phone at that time, waiting for him to come by to talk to me, to show him this is what my concern is. After 8 o'clock, the employees are not going to care. They're going to go around the barricades, like the one vehicle was actually currently a neighbor at that time, stopped, and then you had a car going around them. Well, if you have fire trucks or EMS or anybody coming around that bend, they wouldn't even notice them.
So I assume this is Ohio Township?
Yes.
I think we have a gentleman here that can respond, or perhaps needs to dig into it a little bit.
Right. So first off, let me just say this to you, Chris, and anyone else. Don't wait. I can give you my cell phone number right now. You can call the station. If you have an issue or concern and it wasn't addressed as way you feel, don't wait till the township meeting, weeks after it's already been cleared up and done. Call me right then and there. I'll be more than happy to assist you or find out what's going on. Call me the next morning at the station. I'll be more than happy to find out what's going on and get an answer for that, especially if it deals with public safety. If the officer stated that he called you back, he called you back. He's not going to lie to you about that. You have to understand, as you might have heard, we get dispatched to different calls. I don't know how it got dispatched. I'd have to find out exactly how it got dispatched. It could have been told. Things get lost in translation when you call 911. And I know you were fire police for a little while, so you know. You get dispatched to 100 different things. The officer may not have been told exactly what you wanted or how you wanted it or whatever, but and the telephone number that he may have received may have been the wrong digits. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. All that stuff aside, Chris, all I can tell you is you know, again, don't wait. If you got an issue, call. Okay? Call me, ask to speak to, call 911, say, could I talk to the chief of police? Call the station the next morning. I'll address the issues right away. You know, I can see the road closed signs and things like that. If the officer felt that at the time it was ample enough, because they're not power lines or whatnot, if he felt that it was ample signage during the time where he was hoping that Verizon would have had it fixed and cleared up by nighttime, because you were saying it's not reflective and whatnot.
Yes.
So he was probably figuring, well, Verizon said, hey, we'll be done and out of here in a little bit. I don't know if that was communicated to them or not, but he might have figured, well, it'll be fine. We won't get to the nighttime. So having said all that, again, I'm aware of this incident, but I don't know the specifics of all of it. I'd have to look into it. What is your main concern here tonight, though? What was your, at least the officer waved to me. Must have been nice.
The thing is, it would be nice, you know, because with us, only like 4 of us living over on this side, we're starting to feel like we're not appreciated as like Masonic or as the Manor, just to have where the cop actually would stop and talk to, you know, to make sure. Because I know when I called, when the power lines were down here on Dare Run, the cop, you know, was waiting. And I mean, I know granted you just can't sit on, you know, on something like that, but it's just, you know, where he would have stopped, because that was one of the things when I called twice and told them that I did want to speak to an officer.
Well, again, when you say call and speak to an officer, I see it all the time in the way things happen. Things get lost in translation. They might have just said a phone call, and I'd have to see if, did you ask the officer, did you have this phone number? Did he verify the phone number?
Well, he didn't ask, and I didn't ask him because
Okay.
he didn't seem like he was too keen about it. It just.
Well, like I said, if the officer said he called you back, I believe the officer tried to call you back. Or he attempted to call a number back, whatever phone number that he had. I'd have to go back to the system and find out specifically what phone number he was calling, but I'm sure that the officer did call you back. So, you know, but like I said, you have questions, concerns? Call. At the end of the day, I'll give you my cell phone number. The rest of you, hey, this is what I need.
Well, I have Adams, but I don't like what happens. It would be nice to have yours.
Yeah, no problem. But, you know, I mean, we strive, and I mean, in many situations that we deal with, yes, we can't sit here for 4 hours or 5 hours. As I'm sure you understand, we have a lot of other emergency calls, especially if it's weather-related or whatever. I mean, we're going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, especially just like last week. I mean, it just, you go from one thing to the next. But, so that might have added into it also. I don't know. But I'll look into this. I'll see what I can find out. And, you know, but again, contact me directly if you have any issues. You know, and we'll go from there. All right?
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Meeting adjourned.
Just to bang that, George.
I will when necessary.